World War II is often remembered for its tanks, planes, and sweeping battles. But behind the lines and beneath the noise, millions of people were fighting a quieter and more relentless enemy. The cold. From soldiers shivering on the Eastern Front to families huddled in bomb-damaged London basements, warmth became a matter of survival. Coal was rationed, electricity flickered unreliably, and many had to endure nights where the temperature slipped far below freezing. In these harsh conditions, staying warm was as essential as winning any firefight. And with so little fuel and so few resources, people turned to raw ingenuity. What emerged was a collection of forgotten, improvised heating methods. Smoky, sometimes dangerous, yet life-saving. One of the most iconic makeshift heaters of the war was the oil drum stove. Empty fuel drums were everywhere, scattered across front lines and supply depots. Soldiers cut openings, welded on scrap metal for legs, and improvised chimneys out of whatever they could find. These stoves burned wood, coal, rubbish, anything that would catch fire. They weren't efficient, but when a dugout was frozen solid, a single drum could transform it into a place where exhausted men thawed their boots, steamed the frost from their coats, and caught a moment of rest. Civilians built their own versions too, turning barns, basements, and shelters into pockets of warmth created from little more than waste metal. In blackout cities, where even a flicker of light could attract bombers, families turned to quieter, safer methods. Terracotta flower pots, Himpelgarten. Items became heaters when stacked above small candles. The clay absorbed and radiated heat, turning a tiny flame into a slow, steady source of warmth. It wasn't luxury, but it took the edge off a freezing room and gave families both physical comfort and a sense of control in a world that felt increasingly chaotic. Ancient ideas reappeared as well, like heating stones and bricks. Soldiers would warm stones by the fire, then bury them beneath trench floors to release heat through long nights of snow and wind. Families heated bricks at home, wrapped them in cloth, and slipped them beneath blankets, homemade hot water bottles that kept the cold at bay. When coal deliveries became unpredictable, these simple tricks stretched every bit of fuel a little farther. Fuel shortages sparked even more innovation. With coal rationed to the smallest handfuls, people began creating their own homemade briquettes from sawdust, shredded newspaper, peat, or even dried manure, pressed by hand or molded in wooden frames. These blocks burned longer than sticks and became vital for cooking and heating. Manuals circulated with tips on how to mix materials for the longest burn time. They smoked and sputtered, but they worked hand in wartime. That was enough. Out in the field, soldiers crafted small burners from cans filled with alcohol, kerosene, or animal fat saved from rations. A piece of cloth served as a wick, and suddenly, a pocket-sized heater came to life. Fat burners, in particular, showed an almost desperate creativity. Not even grease was wasted. Every drop of fuel, no matter how humble, meant a little more warmth in a frozen bunker. In rural areas, earth ovens became a lifeline, dug into the ground and lined with stone or clay. These ovens stored heat from a fire long after the flames died. They warmed dugouts, cooked food overnight, and needed nothing but time and labor. Even in places far from modern stoves, the earth itself became part of the survival strategy. Some families had access to soapstone, ceramic tiles, or broken building material, heat-retaining objects that became makeshift heat banks. Once heated, they could warm a room long after the fire went out. In apartments where coal supplies were scarce, these chunks of stone became as valuable as any ration card. And not all heating relied on fire. Much of survival depended on keeping warmth from escaping. Soldiers lined foxholes with straw, pine branches, and layers of newspaper. Families layered clothing, rags, or paper between blankets to trap body heat. It was simple insulation, low-tech, but sometimes the difference between a bitter night and a tolerable one. As shortages deepened, communities banded together. Families crowded into shared basements, combining body heat with whatever small stove they could build from bricks or salvaged iron. These communal heating spaces weren't just practical, they boosted morale. Warmth became a shared effort, a reminder that survival in wartime was not a solitary struggle, but a collective one. All these improvised systems, drums turned into stoves, cans turned into burners, bricks turned into radiators, illustrate one powerful truth. People survived because they learned to adapt. They used whatever they had, wasted nothing, and understood that every spark of heat mattered. Though born from desperation, many of these techniques remain valuable today for anyone facing blackouts, disasters, or fuel shortages. History isn't just about battles and strategies. It's about human resourcefulness. When the cold closed in and fuel ran out, people fought back with creativity, determination, and the simple will to stay warm. If you enjoyed uncovering these forgotten wartime survival tactics, remember to subscribe to In the Beginning and share this story with others who appreciate the lessons hidden in history. The past still has so much to teach us, and together, we can keep those lessons alive.